Well, yeah, thanks, Samantha, for the introduction. I'm really excited to be here. So thank you for having me. I hope everyone is enjoying their day. I don't know if anyone's been around the past few days or in the area. I'm from, Westchester County, so we got hit with that snow. Hopefully, everyone's been safe. um, but it is Heart Month, so I do have some good stuff for you guys. I'm going to try not to get too much into the sciencey, aspect of it. We'll try to have fun, and feel free to just relax. And if you want to share anything, or if you're just not comfortable with sharing, that's totally fine. But hopefully, we have a good time during this presentation. Okay, so let me share my screen here. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. So Heart Month. So as Samantha mentioned, I am an exercise physiologist. I specifically work in cardiac rehab. So for those who have heart attacks, any kind of chest heart procedures, they have their procedure, or whatever has occurred, and then they are given the option to come to cardiac rehab. And my job is to basically create programs for them so that I leave them feeling healthier, like their heart is stronger, so that they, continue to just live their life, and to lower their risk. So I'm going to be sharing a little bit about what you can do and how you can help yourself, help others. And like Samantha said, feel free to jump in, ask any questions. And I apologize if I don't see them in the chat, but I will try to get to them as best as I can. Okay. So a little bit of background about heart disease. So heart disease is, of course, unfortunately, the leading cause of death in the US. It's a scary thing. And a lot of people hear heart disease and they kind of just categorize it to a certain age group, which actually it's no longer that specific age group. Many years ago, maybe, but nowadays I can tell you that it can be as young as someone who's in their 40s, and I've had patients who have come in their 40s. Actually, I had someone who was 35 and came in with a heart attack. So very, very young. And it all comes with, it all happens based on a few different factors. But it is preventable based on your risk factors. So if you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, overweight or obese, pre-diabetic or diabetic, so with your sugar levels, if you're a smoker, sedentary, meaning if you are someone who just doesn't really move, right? So that doesn't necessarily even mean not exercising. It also means, not just getting up and moving. So if you're someone that sits behind a desk all day or kind of sits on the couch, that kind of plays a role in it. If you have family history. So unfortunately, if it runs in your family, you are at risk, which means you could be doing all the right things, but you still are at risk. So I'm going to talk about how you can lower that risk so that it doesn't necessarily occur to you. Of course, eating unhealthy. So nutrition is a really big deal when it comes to your heart. And then specifically age groups. So for women above 55 and men above 45. So like I said, that's just the average, but it can happen to anyone. So just be mindful of that. Okay. There are 8 components when it comes to forming healthy habits. So in regards to your cardiovascular health. So like I said, your healthy diet, right? Participation in physical activity. So when I say physical activity, I mean like something as simple as going for a walk. Okay, so doesn't sound like much, and it can even be taking a walk in the mall, something like that. Avoidance of nicotine. So like I said, smoking, Healthy sleep. Sleep is really, really big. I don't know about you, but if I don't get enough sleep, it affects my day to day. Healthy weight. So, there's category that you might fall into based on your height, your age, different things like that, where, you should be within a certain range. Um, and also your healthy levels of blood lipids. So, for example, your cholesterol, your blood glucose, so which means your sugar and your blood pressure. So, like I said before, all those things play a really big role. And your goal is to kind of eliminate those different factors and kind of move into towards practicing these positive things so that you can benefit from your overall just healthy living. So, how to be more active. Um, Basically, what I want, what I'm trying to promote here is move more and sit less, right? So I want you to kind of just get up and move. And like I said, it can be simple as just walking. According to the American Heart Association, they recommend at least 150 minutes of moderate exercise, aerobic, meaning cardio related, or 75 minutes of vigorous activity. 150 minutes sounds like a lot, but it's actually just 30 minutes a day. And when I say 30, if you're someone that isn't really familiar with exercise or you just aren't a big fan of it, break it up. You can do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, and 10 minutes in the evening. It's that simple. Um, it's something that I encourage people to do when they're just getting their foot in the door, or if they're just there's a day where they wake up and they're just not in the mood. We all have those days. I get that. I even have those days myself. But, taking the 10 minutes of sometimes when you get started and say, okay, I'm just going to do 10 minutes today. You hit that 10-minute mark and you're like, you know what? I think I can go a little bit longer. So you add an extra 5 and you said, okay, I still feel great. Add an extra 5. But like I said, if you stop at 10 minutes, that's okay. That's great. You can check it off. Later in the day, check in with yourself. Say, hey, do I think I can, whether it's go back to the gym or go for a walk or, do something at home to kind of get my heart pumping. Yeah, I've got 10 minutes to spare. Go for it. 30 minutes a day. That's all you really need to do. We can't forget strength training. So a lot of people think cardio is kind of the go-to for your heart because it makes your heart beat faster, you're breathing heavier, but actually strength training is really, really important for your heart. So I don't mean like weightlifting or, carrying those really big weights like you see, people at the gym. It can be something really simple, picking up a dumbbell that only, of course, you can handle, and doing some simple movements. Of course, if you need guidance, this is something that a lot of people aren't familiar with. So, finding your local gym or someone who is well educated in that kind of that area, approach them and say, hey, I kind of want to do some strength training 2 to 3 days a week. And it can be every other day, kind of jump starting into it and being familiar with it. And eventually, as you progress in these things, you don't necessarily have to. We're not trying to, make you look like bodybuilders or anything like that. This is just to kind of gain strength overall for your heart and for your muscles. So the stronger you are overall, the better your heart will feel. Making movement a habit. So when you start to exercise, and this is anything, right? A habit. It can be a good habit or bad habit, right? If you do it on a regular basis, sometimes you do it without even realizing it. That's what a habit is, right? So if you kind of jump into exercise thinking, okay, I'm going to do it today, I'm going to do it tomorrow, maybe I'll do it the day after. Eventually, you're going to kind of wake up and have a routine, right? You're going to get up. If you're a morning person might get up and go for a walk, right? Or, if someone later in the day says, okay, I have some time in my schedule, it just automatically clicks. Okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to do some, whatever it is, whether it's going to the gym or taking a walk or whatever it is like that. Um, and now that the weather it's still a bit on the colder side. What I like to suggest is if you're not someone that likes to be out in the cold, there's something called mall walking, which I think it's fun. If you're a big shopper, I don't know if this is the best thing for you, but certain malls are open early in the morning. So you can kind of go in there and walk around the mall. So some of these malls are fairly big, and it's strictly for you to just kind of get moving. Eventually, the mall does open where the stores, will let you in. So if you're a shopper and you want to go in and shop afterwards, it's a great kind of stepping stone to kind of jump into that. Um, if you are, if you're, like I said, if walking outside during this cold weather just isn't for you, that's totally fine. Um, Choose the right kind. So I think, I don't know if anyone joined in the last monthly webinar, but I know running came up a lot, and some people weren't the biggest fan of running because it's not for them, right? Unfortunately for myself, I love running. So it's it's my kind of physical fitness that I love to do. But that's something that I learned that I loved, right? You slowly find what you are familiar with, and what kind of makes you feel, okay, I can do this. This is possible. It's not too hard for me. I feel like I don't feel overwhelmed while doing it. I don't feel like I want to stop while doing it. Something that you feel like I can do this. And it can be something as simple as doing marches in your living room, taking a walk up and down your stairs, of course, with safety, um, you know, something as simple as that. Um, and then you start small, right? And like I said, 10 minutes, start your day with 10 minutes. And if you don't make it to the 20, the rest of the day and there's 20 minutes left of your exercise, it's okay. At least you can say you did 10 minutes. And then you work your way up from there. And when I say work your way up, you don't have to add an extra 10 minutes. You can add 2 minutes. You can add 3 minutes. You can add 5 minutes. And eventually, when you pick up your time, you'll start to kind of clump that together, and you'll be able to do a full workout without feeling halfway in like, I'm exhausted. I don't think I can complete this. Your goal is to be able to add that extra time and feel like you can complete it. And during this entire time, you're working on not only the muscles around you, but your heart is a muscle, right? So you're working on your heart. You're making it healthier. You're giving it life, so that way you're lowering your risk factors, you're pushing your lifespan even longer, and you are forced to feel like you want to be healthier. So you kind of start paying attention to all the other aspects in your life, and make it choose a cue. So something that I know some people do is they'll put their sneakers in a spot where they'll see it. And as soon as they see their sneakers, they'll say, oh, I got to put on my sneakers. Let's go for a walk, right? Or they'll put something near them that sparks that, oh yeah, I have to go exercise today. Make it so that it's familiar to you, and make it rewarding, right? And when I say rewarding, I don't mean, I went and I exercised for 30 minutes at the gym, so now I can eat a very large piece of cake. As much as we all love a slice of cake or a cupcake or whatever it is, try to find that something that's not necessarily bad for you, right? You want a positive reward, right? You worked really hard, right? So why do something that's going to push you back? You want to move forward. That being said, we all have different ways where we can fall back. That's okay. That's not a reason for you to feel defeated or disappointed. We all have those days. And like I said, I'm presenting about this, but I'm human just like you, right? I have those days where, things kind of fall apart and it doesn't happen. And I kind of take a step back, right? Where I shouldn't have. It's okay. We all have those days. As long as you remember, okay, tomorrow I'll do better. I'll try my best. Another, I see a question from Samantha here. Is there a reason why men are at risk for heart disease at an earlier age than women? Just wondering. There's no particular reason necessarily. It's just the way they're built. Sometimes because men are, built a certain way, you do find more of a population in men where they have a larger waist circumference, and that actually plays a role in your heart health. So it sounds silly, but even though these age groups are kind of categorized for men and women, everyone kind of falls into the same pool. So even though there's a 10-year age gap, I wouldn't necessarily um, pay too much attention to that specific age. I would just follow the guidelines as to what you should do based on you yourself and your background, right? Your health, your genetics, all of that. Does that answer your question, Samantha? I'm assuming
Yes,
that's
thank
a
you.
yes. Okay. Okay. Um, okay. Let's go to the next slide here. Oops. Oh, going too far. Okay. Healthy eating. This is a big topic, right? So, we, of course, want to eat smart. That's always um, the best way to approach it. But how do we do that? I'm going to give you some tips. I am not a nutritionist or a dietitian, but these are kind of the basic guidelines that you can follow. And what I would suggest is if you have any specific questions, in regards to nutrition or trying to find a diet that works best for you, I would advise you to speak to your physician or someone who has a background in that specific topic, which is dietary or nutritional needs. But let's go through the guidelines. So you want to eat smart, right? Fruits and vegetables, whole grains, protein, oils, what to use and what not to use. Processed foods, really easy, right? Just grab something out of the freezer or off the shelf, something so simple, but can actually hurt us quite a bit. How much salt is in something, how much sugar is in something, and hydration. So when it comes to fruits and vegetables, I always like to say when you look at your plate, it should look colorful. I know that was something that when I believe it was My Plate, when that was a big thing a few years back, they always said, look at your plate and it should kind of look, very colorful. I kind of still follow that rule because when it looks colorful, that means there are veggies and fruits, or, I guess you don't necessarily put fruits on your dinner plate, but, veggies on your plate. And portion control is really big too, right? So when you're looking at your plate, do you have more of one versus the other? Is it something that are you doing smart swaps when it comes to your portion? Paying attention to that. When it comes to protein, there's really big talk on high protein, high protein. So this is something that I want to make sure everyone understands. High protein is good for you, yes, but you've got to be careful from where it comes from, right? Are you getting it from somewhere that is processed, right? So those high protein drinks or bars or something like that. Yeah, every now and then something like that can be okay. But what are the ingredients made out of, right? Are they clean ingredients? What about the sugar content? It can be high protein, but there can be a lot of sugar in it, right? It can taste like a candy bar for all you know, right? But you think, oh, it has high protein, it should be okay. Just be very, very careful with what you choose. I suggest if you can, if you're going to try to increase your protein, real food, right? Whole foods, right? Trying to increase your protein by having your meats, right? If you're not a big meat eater, if you're a vegetarian, having those vegetables that can replace it, making sure that you target that area. And you'll notice a difference in your energy level, just how you go about your day, right? Having the right amount of everything on your plate during your meals, makes a big difference. Having less sugar and less sodium. I know growing up It wasn't too familiar with my family with having less sodium in a meal. So I didn't notice the difference, right? But then when I started to slowly make that change for myself, I started to realize, okay, I don't really need this much salt in what I'm eating, right? So I would decrease the amount to the point where when someone else, I didn't realize I was doing it myself. Someone else had something I ate and they said, "Oh, this needs salt." You know, I didn't even realize I was doing it, but it became a habit, right? That habit going back to doing something over and over again. And it's not like the food tasted bad necessarily, right? I just decreased the amount of what I was doing so that way, it was still making it good for me. You just have to be careful, right? Because with that sodium falls the high blood pressure, right? How much salt are you having? High blood pressure is actually the leading cause of heart disease. So you want to make sure that your levels are normal when it comes to that. And we'll talk a little bit about, what normal levels are later on in the presentation. When it comes to oils, something that I like to advise people to do, whether they have heart disease or not, two oils that are really good for you: avocado oil and olive oil. Those are kind of the two base oils that everyone should have. Everything else kind of can, fall below that. And if you can cook with those two, I would say, you're pretty solid. And I don't mean, dousing it in whatever, not fried food in those oils, but using that as your, base when you're cooking, or if you're adding it to whatever you're eating. um, Hydration. I can't talk to you more about hydration. It's so important. So I've had people come to me, and and they're exercising, and all of a sudden they'll feel lightheaded and dizzy. My first question is, did you have enough water today? And they look at me and they say, well, I actually had a cup of coffee this morning, maybe 2 cups of coffee. Coffee is not hydration. I love coffee. Trust me. I have a newborn. Coffee is my best friend. So I totally get it. But you need to replace that coffee with water. And when I say replace, I don't mean get rid of the coffee, right? I mean, if you're going to have a cup of coffee, have a cup of water with it, kind of do a 1-in-1 ratio so that you make sure you're hydrated. Something that I like to do is carry around a big jug of water so that way I'm constantly reminded to take a sip, and it's just a sip, right? I don't mean, chugging halfway through. Just take a sip every time you walk by. The lack of hydration puts such a big strain on your heart. People don't realize that, they think, oh, I want to exercise. Oh, I want to eat right. Yeah, you're doing all the right things, but the lack of water just affects your heart in such a negative way that you're really not going to get that far if you're not hydrating well. And you can absolutely have electrolytes. Just be careful with those electrolyte drinks like Gatorade, or the powders that you add, because there are some extra things in there. The reason why it makes an electrolyte drink is the salt, of course, and that salt is supposed to hydrate you more. Just be careful. Make sure you drink plain water along with it. But also the sugars, right? The sugars in these drinks can be quite a bit. So just be mindful of how much sugar you're intaking when it comes to that. Can anyone tell me, have the water to wash the coffee down? Yes, absolutely, Kevin. That's a great way to think about it. Just have that cup of water ready as soon as you're, done with that coffee. Can anyone tell me, how many cups of water are you supposed to have during the day? Does anyone know? 8. Marcy
Y-
said 8. Anyone else?
Yes, I think it's based on your weight
Mm-hmm.
and what type of body you have, and that's determining how much water you drink.
Okay.
And
So,
8 is too much for a 5 foot guy.
okay. So Paul is saying based on your weight. Jenna says 8. I've also heard 8, but that doesn't seem like enough. Yeah. Yeah, great answers. So, 8 is actually not too far. And Paul, you're not necessarily wrong. The recommended amount is 11 to 15 cups a day. It sounds like a lot, right? 11, 15 cups. Um, but, if you don't reach that 11 to 15, it's not the end of the world. But if you're someone that's jumping into exercise, right, trying to get physically fit, and trying to help your heart, you don't want to stop at 2 or 3 or 4 cups. You want to be able to hydrate yourself extra. So sometimes moving that much forces you to actually drink 11 to 15 cups a day. Um, but be careful because like Paul said, your weight does have it plays a role in how much you hydrate. So if you're someone that is just sticking to water, that's great. But you're also losing sodium actually when you're drinking water, right? So you're going to the bathroom, you're letting it go. You've got to replace it again. So if you're not replacing it, you're losing all of that extra sodium that's in your body that's actually helping you, right? There's good sodium. What size cup? Um, I would say it's when the average according to the American Heart Association, they're actually referring to like an actual measuring cup, right? So that's what a typical cup would be. It doesn't sound like much because if you actually look at one of those measuring cups, it's not much. But I would say if you can aim to by the end of the day, or not end of the day, I would say before you hit the end of the day, try to have have 2 30-ounce, water bottles. That's pretty good, and again, start somewhere. You don't have to jump right into, I carry around a 40-ounce mug. You don't have to jump into carrying that around. Start with by having a cup nearby. And it can be like a coffee cup. That's perfectly fine as well. But constantly refill it. And if you're not someone that you think you're going to refill it, find that water bottle and fill up that water bottle and keep that near you. Okay. Um, when it comes to portion size, be very, very careful, right? If you're someone that you're going to overeat, find yourself a smaller plate, right? If you approach your meal with a large plate, you're kind of forcing yourself to fill up that plate when you don't really need it, right? But if you find a smaller plate and you fill it up, you're not shoving more food that your body doesn't need. And of course, filling your plate up with good things. So, for example, you know, if you have some veggies and your protein, and let's say one of your veggies is mashed potatoes, right? You don't want more of the mashed potatoes covering your plate versus everything else, right? Be very careful with that. um, you want to maintain a healthy weight. So of course, go to your physician, do those yearly checks. And if you need to go in more often, go in more often. See what your weight is, see where you fall within that range. And everyone's different, right? Of course, there's always an average that um, uh, they give you, right, for where you should fall in. But it's kind of different based on your body type, right? So just be mindful of where you're at. Keep an eye on your weight. If you're someone that is trying to lose weight, that's great, but you got to start somewhere, right? So a lot of people come to me when it comes to weight. They say, I want to lose 50 pounds. That's a great number, 50 pounds. So how do we get there? That's a really big number. How do we approach that? Let's start off with just 5, right? Let's start off with 5. When you're at a certain weight and you try to lose weight, whether it's through nutrition or physical exercise, your heart is not necessarily ready. So if you try to push yourself more than your heart can handle, you kind of fall back again. You're going to have that moment where you feel like, oh, I don't think I can do this. My heart feels like it can't handle it, but it can. Obviously, you've got to make small steps towards it. If you're someone who is worried about stepping into whether it's exercise or changing your diet, approach your physician first. Say, hey, this is a thought that I have. How do you think I should go about it? If you're someone that um, that has a history of heart disease, right? You want to approach this in a safe manner. So if your family has a history of heart disease, you want to be able to um, do everything the safest way possible so that you don't push yourself into having whatever it is that your family members had. Um, Read nutrition labels. This one, again, if you have a dietitian or a nutritionist that you can approach, talk to them, see how you can read these nutrition labels and understand it better. It can be a little confusing when you're staring at it, but like I said, there's a lot of material that you can find on American Heart that can help you kind of approach it. There are, like I said, people who are trained to help you. So I would definitely suggest that. I know that I believe some grocery stores have dietitians that you can talk to, and you can just say, hey, I wanna do this when it comes to my meal. Like, how can I approach it without having too much salt or having too much sugar? So definitely bring that up. So healthy markers. So this is what we were talking about before in regards to talking to your provider. So controlling your cholesterol, and cholesterol just means the fats, right? So there's LDL versus HDL. You want your LDL to be below 100, and you want your HDL to be higher than 50. Your HDL is the good cholesterol, right? When I see HDL, I see the H and I think happy, right? You want that number to be higher. And that plays a big, big role in your heart health, because if your arteries are clogged with all those fatty deposits, you have nowhere for your blood to reach your heart, right? It's not a smooth pathway. You want to be able to approach this, mindful of, okay, there's a lot going on. It's not just my heart that's working, right? There's a lot that comes with it. So you want to be able to approach that, in a safe way. Manage your blood sugar. So if you are a diabetic, or you're pre-diabetic, you want to maintain your sugar levels. Having food that has low sugar. Again, talk to your provider. Make sure that what you're having isn't going to be affecting your blood sugar levels. Or if you're someone who wants to be more aware of it, make sure you talk to them. And of course, controlling your blood pressure. So 120 over 80 is kind of the baseline. And of course, it can kind of move a little bit when it comes to exercise. When you're exercising, your heart's pumping, so your blood pressure will be higher, and that's okay. Just make sure that if you're someone that is approaching this, and you do have high blood pressure, or someone that does, that they go about it in a safe manner. Okay. Mental health. Oh my gosh, I can't emphasize enough how big mental health is. So, if you are someone that is physically active, if you are someone that eats perfectly, if you're someone that just has everything under control, but your mental health is a mess, it actually affects your heart in the worst way possible. Stress can hurt your heart in so many ways. So, you want to be able to eliminate that stress. Your emotional, psychological, and social well-being, all of that kind of, it goes down the drain, right? So the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act all plays a role in how we handle stress, right? So when we want to lower our stress, something we can do is take a minute. So what I want everyone to do together is to take a minute and, oh, my lights just turned off. I'm not sure what just happened. Sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulty on my end. Um, okay, there we go. Back on. Okay, So, what were we talking about? Oh, let's take a minute. So, what I want everyone to do is you're going to take a nice deep breath in and we're going to let it out slow. The way we do that is you're going to breathe in through your nose and you're going to let it out nice and slow through your mouth. Okay, so let's do it together. Ready? Take a deep breath and let it out. And the best way to do that is when you blow it out, pretend like you're blowing a candle. Okay. If you feel like you're stressing out, you have a headache, right? This is a great way to try to get yourself to relax, right? So take a deep breath in and let it out. Blow out that candle. Ready? Let's do another one. Very good. I hope some people felt some relief from that. I know I did. Um, Another way to take a break is by practicing gratitude. So, I'd like to take a minute if everyone can share something that they're grateful for, right? Something that brings their heart joy. I'll go first. So, something that I'm grateful for is this very moment, right? Being able to talk to you guys about heart health. I love talking about your heart, right? It's something that I care deeply about. So I'm very grateful that, I can talk to you guys about this. I'm also grateful for my newborn, right? Something that brings me joy. Um, you know, so something as simple as that. So does anyone want to share something that they're grateful for?
I can go. I'm grateful for my pets.
Your pets. Oh, what kind of pets do you have?
I have two dogs and three cats.
Wow, that's awesome.
I got
Anyone
one.
else?
I got one.
Yeah,
I'm grateful for we got like you were saying to have this tonight, and plus to have my job I have in Special Olympics, New York, because we get to compete in all the sports we love and we get our exercise in and stuff.
that's awesome. Good for you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Um, I'm grateful the gift of God we gave us and created me. And I do rosary prayers every day at work and in the day and go to church and volunteer 750 hours a week, no, month, and join the community is a great gift from God.
Very nice. Thank you, Paul, for sharing. Samantha said for this opportunity to learn something new from the presentation and for her two cats, Jenna, my family, and my dog. Marcy, getting closer to spring. Yes, I agree with that. I love how a lot of us are grateful for our pets. That's great. I'm so glad we all have something to be grateful for, and that's really comforting, right? I hope so. That's something that actually helps your heart, right? So in moments of stress, think about those things, right? It calms you down. It brings your blood pressure down. It helps with your breathing, right? And it helps with your heart health overall. Um, so just keep that in mind, when you do have those stressful moments. You don't want to damage your heart. You want it to recover, basically.
I got one more to share.
Yeah.
Is that what I was happy for too with my job is that because between this June and December of the end of this year, I can retire from my job and I will have 30 years with government service.
Wow, good for you. That's so exciting.
Yeah. So I can retire if I want. I don't have to go, but I have the age in June. I will. I'll be 60 in June, or I'll be in December. I'll have 30 years at my job. I don't have to retire. I can stay as long as I want.
Wow, good for you, Kevin. That's so
That's what I'm
exciting. Yeah,
happy about.
congratulations. I
Because
will
I
think
always
of
say
you.
I don't want I don't want to depend on the state, the federal government supporting me. I want to go out and support myself and show them I can do it and I can live on my own because I own my own home and I drive, so I don't have to worry about them supporting me.
That's awesome. Good for
Yeah,
you, Kevin. I will
thank
think of
you.
you when I get to retire one day.
But I learned all that stuff from Special Olympics by not giving up for your future, what you want to do. So
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
I,
Thank you for sharing that. No, that was awesome. Congratulations.
you're welcome.
Sharing that brought others joy as well. So,
Yeah,
thank you so much for sharing that.
you're welcome.
Does anyone else have anything before I move on? No? Okay. So along with practicing gratitude, which thank you for sharing, is, limit distractions. So, trying not to stare at your screen all the time. Oh, that's okay. Oh, thank you, Mona. I'm glad you're here. That's okay. Um, yeah, limiting distractions, trying to minimize that screen time, which is the biggest distraction I think a lot of people have. Um, Trying to limit replacing those moments of stress, filling it up with your negative eating behavior, right? So some people find that distracting when they consume certain foods. They find that this distracts me from whatever stressful situation that I'm in. So trying to find different ways to let go of those things. And if you need to talk to a healthcare provider, again, it's really important to share your thoughts in that sense. If you're someone that's really struggling, I'd advise you to, talk to someone about it because, like I said, your mental health plays a huge role in taking care of your heart. And positive self-encouragement, right? So when you say different things like, whether you're getting closer to retirement and you have a tough week, right? You think, I'm almost there, right, Kevin? I'm almost there. Yeah, so you have those moments where you kind of just got to push yourself, right? Your positive encouragement. You're saying, I did a great job today. I just got to take a break, go to sleep, wake up tomorrow morning, and start a brand new day. What you eat plays a really big role in how you feel, right? So if you are consuming a lot of things that can make you feel down and heavy and tired, it plays a role in how you feel, right? Healthy eating definitely helps you feel a little bit more alert. You have more energy, so not having too much sugar. You've got that you have that sugar rush, right? And all of a sudden it's gone. And you start to feel down and depressed, right? And you don't want that. You want to keep that mood going until the end of the day. And like I said, we all have those off days. We all have those days where you just feel like you can't make it to the end of the day. I get it. But you got to just take one day at a time, and eventually things will turn up. This link here, the meditation and mindfulness, actually brings you to some videos that you can watch where you can take a minute for yourself. And for some people, they feel like the meditation is really helpful to calm themselves down and take a breath. So doing it in the morning, in the middle of the day, towards the end of the day, something that you can do. So if you just click on that meditation and mindfulness link, it'll bring you to some videos that might help. Okay, healthy sleep. Sleep is really important. The average, again, these are just averages, 7 to 9 hours of sleep. You're basically giving your body a reason to reset, right? You're recovering. It also heals you overall, right? Your brain function is better. Lack of sleep can run into a lot of issues, right? With your driving, with the way you speak with someone, right? The way you interact with just your day-to-day colleagues or family, or how you do a certain task, right? Whether it's for work or at home, it affects it. So your heart is affected in that area where your heart feels like it's working a little bit too hard, right? It's trying to keep up with your day, but you feel like you're not going to make it, right? So sometimes if you feel like you need to take a nap in the middle of the day, go for it. I can tell you myself, I wasn't a big napper before having a child, but now I am, right? So, and it took me a while to kind of accept that. I wasn't okay with it at first, but I made that change because I knew I would feel better, right? I felt the strain in my heart when I didn't get enough sleep. And I thought, okay, I need to take a minute for myself and close my eyes. Once I started to practice that, I felt a lot better. And I was able to understand things a lot easier. I was able to go about my day easier, and different things. Everything kind of fell into place once I started to put that into practice. Your brain function, your productivity, and lowers your risk for chronic diseases. And overall, obviously, it increases, your mood and your energy. And this little PDF here, you can find that on American Heart Association, how to get healthy sleep, and different ways to kind of approach that. For those who are smokers, vaping and using tobacco plays a really big role. Just be mindful. Your heart is struggling if you are someone that smokes. And you don't have to be a smoker yourself. You can be around somebody that's a smoker. And that can also affect your heart health as well. So be very, very mindful. Having any kind of tobacco use or vaping or whatever it is, it affects not only your heart, but your mental health, right? Which plays a role in your heart health. There's a lot of different areas that it can affect: your anxiety, depression, irritability, being impatient, difficulty concentrating, you feel restless, right? All of this plays a role in how your heart functions. So just be mindful of that and speak with your provider in how to approach different ways to step into not being around it, or trying not to, if you're someone that smokes, to quit smoking. Protect your heart. So, obviously make smart choices, and learning the warning signs. So, if you're someone that is experiencing this is important, but it also, keep in mind, if you see someone experience this, you'll know. So, for someone who has heart disease, if they're having chest pain, if the pain spreads down their shoulder, arm, back, or neck, that's really important. If they feel like they're having heartburn, it could just be heartburn, but if you're someone who is at risk, it's really important. If you're feeling short of breath, and there's a difference between feeling like you're struggling to breathe while you're exercising a little bit versus feeling short of breath due to your heart. If you take a minute or two and you don't feel like it's recovering, that's when you need to be a little bit more cautious about it. Something that people are not aware of, for women, you might not have any of these symptoms, but you might feel bloated. So, you might feel like you're bloated throughout the day and it's getting worse and nothing is relieving it. And it actually can be an indicator of having some kind of heart-related incident. So just be mindful of that. And lastly, you can just be tired. I always like to say, if you are someone at risk for heart disease, or a heart event, heart attack, or any kind of event, or someone that is at risk, be mindful of that. And it never hurts to just call 911, right? It's better to be safe than sorry. So the picture that I have next to protecting your heart is actually a calendar that the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute promotes. I know we're at the end of our month, but it's something that you can follow for the rest of the year. I need this guide. It looks like something I need. Yeah, absolutely. You can take this and you can practice it next month and see how you feel, using every day as a different opportunity to work on your heart. And something like day one, it says sport red today for National Wear Red Day. It sounds silly, but it's something fun to kind of get yourself into. If you're someone that needs a little bit push, following a calendar like this, you can absolutely kind of take that step forward. If you're someone that loves to dance, day 21 is Saturday Night Fever. Dance to your favorite song, something fun and interactive. So hopefully, one of you guys, can take this and kind of follow it as the years go on. And then how to help others. So of course, if you are not someone that has heart disease or are at risk of heart disease, but you know someone, how can you help? Learn CPR and AED, right? Being familiar with using those pieces of equipment, and know the signs and symptoms. Like I said before, when are they having any kind of chest related incident? So a heart related incident, whether it's a heart attack or something else, and keep each other accountable, right? Sometimes the easiest way to push yourself is to have a friend or a family member go through it with you. And kind of, keeping each other, hey, you want to go on a walk today? Or, hey, hey, I did 20 minutes today. What did you do today? Different things like that, kind of making sure that, you're, and it doesn't have to be one other person. It can be a group of people. And then, also participating in something fun together. So for example, this link here, if you click on it, it'll bring you to wherever your heart walk is for that year. So for example, wherever location you're in, sometimes they have heart walks throughout the year. Specifically it's for supporting people who have had heart disease, or you just want to be a part of it. You can absolutely join. It's a lot of fun, and you get to kind of, you can have your friends join. And, it's just a different way for you to kind of get up and get moving. And these are my references. So, you can find a lot of information from the American Heart Association or the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. So I hope everyone gained a lot of information from this presentation and how important your heart health is. I can take any questions now if you have, and yeah, I hope it was beneficial for all of you.
Thank you so much, Sheena. That was really great. I learned a lot. So thank you. Does anyone have any questions? I do have one question. So,
Yeah.
you mentioned hydration, which I feel like when people, like you said, like when people think of their heart, they don't really think of that. So, yeah, that was really great. And I was just wondering, maybe for other people, because I personally like love drinking water all the time, but
Mhm.
for those people who, maybe they're not super happy about drinking water and they're like, well, I want something that tastes good. Like, is there anything that you would recommend for that?
So I know for people who are big soda drinkers, right? That's kind of hard to break. But they do have those alternative drinks out there where it tastes, and I'm not a big soda drinker, but I have tried them just to see what they're like. And they're pretty close, they're cleaner, and you can kind of replace your hydration intake, right? If you're having that soda with something that's a little bit better. I also know that there are different versions of sparkling water. If you're someone that's, you need that kind of carbonated feeling. They also have, different juices that you have to pay attention to the sugar, of course. Obviously, nothing is better than water. Water is the best way to do it, but you can kind of follow it the same way as coffee. If you're gonna have that can or that cup of whatever drink you're having, follow it with water, or have those sips of water in between while you're drinking that drink. So that way you don't realize that you're actually getting enough water. You're kind of, throwing it in every now and then.
Awesome, thanks. Any brands that you recommend for the like soda alternatives?
Yeah, there is. So I believe it's called Poppy. I think that's what it's called. I'm not.
Oh yeah, I've had that before. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, there's poppy, um, drink poppy, I think it's called. I think there's another one called, what is it?
Oh,
Ollie,
Olipop. Hmm.
Ollie soda. Yeah, something like that. Those are just the two that I think that I've seen, but I know there are others out there. But just be careful with, because there's so many different versions out there. So just be careful with what kind of, sugars they're using and how much of it they're using.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Um, I know Kevin has a question, but he is just gonna wait until everybody else. So does anyone else have a question?
Yes, I do. Um, when I was a teenager, I was like 160, 52 pounds. Highest worst weight should be every decade when it goes up.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
I said that when I was like 18, I was like
Uh-huh,
152
uh-huh.
pounds. But what is the rate when you get older? How much pounds goes to add every 10 years?
So it shouldn't be looked at like that. There's
Well, that's
something
what it
called
feels like.
it shouldn't when you're as you age, you shouldn't be necessarily gaining weight significantly. It's there's something called your BMI, which is your body mass index. And that's it comes with, if you actually Google BMI, you can put in your age and your height. And you can actually see where you should fall within what category, and your weight. And it'll tell you if you're overweight or under. So again, these are all general, based on an average, right? But we don't all necessarily fall within an average. So just make sure that you're visiting your doctor every year to make sure that you're maintaining what your body needs, right? So if your numbers look good, right, your cholesterol, your blood pressure, everything like that looks good. It doesn't necessarily mean that your weight doesn't play a role. You still might need to lose a few pounds here or there, but that might be something that if you do feel like you're unsure, make sure you talk to your doctor about that.
I see
Uh,
that someone asked, are the slides going to be available in an email to us? Yes, I will email the slides and the recording of this to all of you who attended. And it will also be posted on Special Olympics New York's YouTube channel. So yeah, you'll be able to access all of this. And like I said, like the resources she provided some really great resources. So yes, I'll make sure that you all have access to that. Does anyone else have a question besides Kevin? Okay. And if no one else has a question, besides Kevin, so Sheena, if you wouldn't mind just like hanging back just for a minute.
Yeah, no problem.
But if everybody else is good, and thank you so much, Sheena. Like I said, this was really great information. I learned so much, and I'm sure all of you did too. So this was awesome. I really appreciate you being on. This was really great. So, yeah, so like I said, I will share this information with all of you. Keep an eye out for next month's webinars. We have one on better sexual health. That's going to be early March. I think it's like March 11th. And then another one on brain health. That one's going to be on March 18th. But like I said, like I'll send all that information out to you guys. So just keep a lookout for that. But if no one else has any questions, you are free to hop off. Thank you all so much for coming and taking the time to be here. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you next month. And Kevin, we'll hang on for a minute for you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys.